Hey guys, today we're going to talk about elements. Now, before what we were talking about with matter, we broke it down into three main topics or main sections, and that was elements, compounds, and mixtures. Well, today we're going to really focus on the elements part. In the middle right here, you can kind of see this is a periodic table. I'm going to make it bigger so that we can really kind of see what it is. If it is on this table, okay, it is an element. So if we're looking at it, some of them are probably familiar, right? We got hydrogen that's up here at the front. That one we've all heard of. Oxygen's another one that we hear of a lot of times. Some other ones, gold, okay, kind of right there, number 79 is in silver, copper. All those are metals, or elements that we've heard of and probably use on a frequent basis. Now, these are very different than water, which is H2O. Okay, you're going to notice that hydrogen is on the table, oxygen is on the table, but water, or H2O, is a compound because it's a mixture of the two of those. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and make that smaller so we can really get to some of the kind of stuff that we're talking about. So, all right, we'll just kind of put that to the side right there because that is important, but not really what we want to talk about today. Today we want to really just talk about the elements in general. So each of these squares is the name of one element. And then like you notice, okay, the symbol is big in the middle, and then the name is on the bottom. There's some other information on there, the periodic table. Let's make that bigger again, right? There's some other information on there. If you kind of blow it up real big, right, we can see that we have the symbol, the number of the element, the name, and then even this mass down here. That's how much it actually weighs. So that's all on the periodic table. We're going to use this a lot. You're going to get a periodic table that you're going to want to hang on to, and it will be very, very useful for you. So anyways, we're talking about the elements today. Now, on the periodic table, we have what we call groups and what we call families. Now, a group is, or a family, is the vertical column on the periodic table. So if we look again at this thing, let's make it bigger real fast. Okay, a group is something that goes up and down. So this is group 1 because it is the first column on the periodic table. Also, if we blow it up a little bit bigger, yet still, okay, can you see here up at the top how there is a little number 1 right up there? Okay, that's to indicate that it is group 1. So anyways, a group is something that goes up and down on the periodic table, a column. With that as well, the reason that this is important is in a group, they have similar properties. Okay, so all of those in that same column are going to have similar chemical properties to each other. For example, everything in that first group, so lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, and francium, that's Li, Na, K, Rb, Cs, and Fr. All of those are going to react with water really violently. They'll all explode when you put them in water. So that's just one of the chemical properties that go along with it. And then every single every single column will have kind of properties that are like that. So that's the group or family, and then the periods are the horizontal rows on the periodic table. Now those don't necessarily are the same as you go across. Kind of the main thing here is that if you are near each other in a row, they're kind of similar. If they're not near each other, well then the farther away we get, the more different they are. So as an example, right, so we got rubidium, which is there right here on the left-hand side. It's going to have relatively similar properties to strontium, which is right next to it. That being said, rubidium, okay, again, you can see the little red dot that's bouncing on rubidium right there, is going to have very, very, very different properties than, let's say, silver, okay, right there in the middle. So I'm hitting that dot on cesium. So no, even though they're in the same period or the same row on the periodic table, they're going to have different physical and chemical properties because they're so far apart in that row. So that's just kind of what we want to look at and how we want to start to classify these different elements. Now, the other way that we're going to classify them, get rid of that, is if they are a metal, a nonmetal, or a metalloid. Now, this really doesn't mean too much except for just the different properties that they have. So the first one is a metals. Okay, metals in general, they are good conductors of heat and electricity, and where they're located on this periodic table is they're going to be located on the left. Okay, so you can kind of see the circle that I'm making. Basically, I'm making a line that goes right through here. On our periodic table, it's the green elements. Okay, everything to the left of that line is going to be a metal. Nonmetals, okay, if metals are good conductors of heat and electricity, nonmetals are the opposite of that, or poor conductors, or they don't conduct heat and electricity, and those are on the right-hand side. All right, so again, I'm circling the right-hand side of this periodic table. That's where the nonmetals are left. And then, just like anything else, there's going to be some gray area in between. What we call those are metalloids. And the blue elements on this periodic table, okay, we got boron, silicon, germanium, arsenic, antimony, tin, and polonium. Okay, those are our metalloids, and those have characteristics of both. Some characteristics of metals, some characteristics of nonmetals. And, those are just kind of in the middle there. Now, as we're going through, all of these are going to have different properties kind of within themselves, right? So metals in general, so let's talk about metals first, right? So metals are going to have malleability, okay? So they're going to be malleable. Now, all that malleable means is that they can be hammered or rolled into a thin sheet, so think aluminum foil, right? So malleable just means that you can make a foil out of it. The next one is ductile. Okay, and what ductile is that you can make a wire out of it. Okay, the other thing that metals are going to have is they're going to be shiny. Okay, or in chemistry we're going to call that luster. And then the other thing that they're going to have is a high tensile strength. So they don't break very well. Okay, so high tensile strength. And that's just kind of the general properties of those. Now, if metals are all of those things, as you can probably guess, nonmetals are going to be the opposite. Okay, so, right, make that smaller. Okay, and nonmetals are going to be brittle. Okay, nonmetals are going to be the opposite of luster just basically means dull in color. Okay, so they're not going to be shiny. And they have a low tensile strength that they're going to break easily. So all right, so that's just kind of some of those properties that metals and nonmetals have. And like we already talked about, okay, if metalloids are kind of a cross in between the two, they're going to have properties of both of those. So, and I don't need to write that because it's just going to have properties of both. All right, so does that make sense? Okay, and then the very, very, very last thing that we want to talk about is what we call the noble gases. The noble gases, guys, these are the elements in this column. Let's make it super small. Right there. Okay, so they're the ones in this group or family, okay, on the very, very far right-hand side. And these guys are special just because they don't react with anything. We're going to talk about all these things in general, but it's just kind of this idea that there are different elements and they have different properties, both physical and chemical, and we're going to learn more about it as we go. So, guys, these are the elements, and again, we'll spend more time with it later.